If you have been watching Formula 1 recently, you likely would have seen your fair share of pretty boring races, such as, 90% of last year's races. However, when all the stars align, an F1 race can be the best thing to watch in the world, such as just 3 weeks ago with the Canadian Grand Prix. So, what are these stars? Can we pinpoint exactly what makes an F1 race good? Or are there no stars and it's simply just down to the day and how the drivers drive? Well, let's discuss what I think of this, and more specifically, what factors can lead to an F1 race potentially being good. Now I feel like there are 4 main factors that, if even one of them is ticked out, can make an F1 race good. However, if all 4 are ticked out, then I feel that makes a classic F1 race. So having said that, here is factor 1. Now obviously, the track itself needs to be good. To put it simply, a track that has corners that flow while also having enough track width to support at least 3 cars side by side is going to lead to closer racing. The biggest examples of tracks doing this are Interlagos and the Red Bull Ring, which is why we get so many banger races there. Now you may say, doesn't the Circuit Catalunya also have these things? And yes, they do, since the track has a variety of corners and track width, but this leads into my next point, and that is corner placement and track elevation. Let's start with corner placement, and for this, let's compare the Circuit Catalunya and Silverstone. Both tracks are as flat as a pancake and both have a variety of corners. However, look at the placement of them. A long straight that leads into a tricky corner and back into a short straight is set to create better action than a long straight leading into a long series of slow corners, since if the car ahead has better downforce, they could just pull away so easily. Now let's talk about track elevation, and this can influence a circuit since downhill or uphill braking zones always lead to action, since this requires more skills from the drivers, and both can lead to crazy dive bombs as we so often see in the Red Bull Ring and Interlagos. So, couple track elevation and corner placement, a track can always lead to fantastic racing. However, there is a problem. Spa has all of these, but so rarely nowadays produces good races, and this leads into my next point and the next factor at making a race good. Obviously, the on-track action is going to be a factor in the entertainment of a race. On-track action can vary, but the main things that make it are overtakes, pit stops, and strategies, and if there are a lot of these things, the race is probably going to be entertaining to watch. To put it simply, if a race happens where there are 0 overtakes, it's probably going to be pretty boring, and if a race happens where there are 100 overtakes, it's probably going to be pretty exciting. However, it should be noted that the overtakes that happen in a race actually have to be good overtakes. Let me put it like this, which sounds better? An overtake where a driver dive bombs the car ahead and takes the position going around the outside or inside of the driver, or an overtake where a car gets passed on the straight? Lock in your answers, and the correct answer is obviously the first one, right? It's better because an overtake on the straight is pretty easy since it's just a straight line. However, an overtake entering a turn or on a turn takes more skill, and it's just better to watch since there is also the chance of a collision or incident happening, and it's overall just way more intense than an overtake on a straight. So is there a way to cause on-track action? Well, yes. One of them is a factor for later in the video, but another is just the grid being so close together. I am willing to bet everything I own that if we get a year where everyone is so close together, a race like Spa can truly shine its qualities, and it's unfortunate that a year where everyone was so close together, the race was washed out. But this year is promising, so let's hope Spa can prove my point. It probably won't. Now let's move on to our next factor. On-track action isn't the only thing that can lead to a good F1 race, since I think off-track drama can also influence the entertainment of a race. Now, this factor is going to be the shortest since there is really only one point, and that is beef. 2 drivers beefing is not uncommon. However, when these 2 drivers are on race-winning cars, and dare I say, championship-winning cars, it can influence the on-track action, and it will even have us listening to post-race interviews, especially after an incident. Now this is rare since in the era of PR, we have to deal with whatever Gasly and Ocon's relationship is, so teams will probably not allow their drivers to get mad at another. But we do get some jabs here and there from drivers like Alonso or pundits like Baldman, and this can perhaps entice the driver on the receiving end to drive better, and this can lead to some entertainment, but come on, we all know it's better when it's two drivers for wins or championships beefing. So having said that, here's the final factor. The final factor, in my opinion, is the weather. Now obviously, if it rains, the race will instantly get more exciting, but just because it rains doesn't mean the race is automatically a banger. Let's take Japan 2022 for example. In Japan, it rained a lot, and it was red flagged for a while. However, it did get underway, but the race wasn't that exciting, and I feel this is because of the rain. See, if the rain just keeps falling at the same rate, the rain isn't going to add much other than drivers maybe losing it more often. However, if the rain constantly changes pace, we could see something juicy like in Canada this year. And this also leads into what I think is the best weather for good races, and that is changeable weather. To me, there is no better entertainment factor to a race, like a race going from wet to dry, back to wet, and then back to dry. Like mentioned previously, Canada 2024 was an example of this, but there were other races where this did happen, such as in Germany 2019 and Canada again in 2011. Rain isn't the only weather that can make a race exciting though, since I think extreme hot or extreme cold conditions can also do the same. In extreme hot weather, tires are more likely to go pop due to the heat literally slashing the tires, so drivers will have to take more pit stops to reach the end, and if they even go past 1 or 2 laps past their pit target, the tire can go and we could see a safety car. And in extreme cold conditions, we could see the exact opposite. This is because when the weather is cold, tires are less likely to give grip to the drivers, which means no punctures this time, but instead more people going off track and maybe even spinning. So now that we've discussed what can make an F1 race exciting, what are some popular examples of this so that if you're interested, you can go see it for yourself? Well, I think most recently, the 2024 Canadian Grand Prix ticked all the boxes, since the track is great and it had overtakes, stories, and changeable weather, and it all made out to be for one great race and a modern classic. Now I'm gonna highlight a bunch of races and you'll have to trust me that these are good and classics deserving of your time. So here we go. 2022 British Grand Prix, 80% of 2021, 2020 Turkish Grand Prix, 2019 Brazilian Grand Prix, 2019 German Grand Prix, 2018 Azerbaijan Grand Prix, 2017 Azerbaijan Grand Prix, 2014 Bahrain Grand Prix, 2012 Malaysian Grand Prix, and 2011 Canadian Grand Prix. Whew. Let me know if I missed some. So that is what I feel can lead to an F1 race being good and entertaining to watch. To recap, a track being good, on-track action like overtakes, off-track drama like driver feuds, and weather effects like rain or extreme heat can all lead to an F1 race being a great race. Now, some of these things can be influenced by the FIA, such as new regulations or leniency with the rules. However, this is an entirely different discussion, and let me know in the comments if you would like to see a video about how the FIA can potentially fix the boring F1 races problem. Having said that though, don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more content like this, and let me know in the comments what you think the factors that make a good F1 race are, and as always, have an amazing day.
Good weather for the duck.